Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. When it comes to your health, there have been lots of debates about this topic that we're going to dig into today, about something that you should be eating. How much should you be eating? Where should the source of this one thing come from? I'm referring to protein. You need it in your diet. It's so important for energy, for strength. And she is somebody who helps people with their diets and their wellness all the time. She's the owner of Morse Wellness, and she's just amazing. Terry Morse is back with us. Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm just super great, Steve. It's great to be with you again. I love this.
I really do, too. And things that you talk about are the things that we think of or wonder about. And it's so funny we talk about protein today. And that you said, this is what I want to talk about. I'm known in my circle of friends as Mr. Protein because I've been saying for decades, if I don't have enough protein in my meal, eventually I get a headache. I just don't feel that great. It's gotten better over the years, but it's almost become a running joke. And then recently I heard that we're supposed to be eating so much more protein than we actually thought. So there's a lot to dig into today. Where do you want to start?
Well, thank you, Steve. I'd like to just give a quick little background on why we're going into this topic today, because the goal of this series that I'm doing with you is education. My whole idea is to help everyone have a better understanding of how the body actually works, because people generally are not taught that. And, of course, the medical profession doesn't have a clue about how the body actually works. And so you go to your doctor and you don't get what you need to know. So my goal is to have people understand enough so they can make clear decisions about their own health, what to eat, the lifestyle choices, the healing modalities, and the supplements. So that's kind of the background. So the last few sessions that we've done, interviews, have been about hydration, microbes, minerals, salt, all of that type of thing, and digestion. So today, it's really, like you say, it's a very important topic, proteins, because our bodies are made of protein, out of protein structures. You have to have amino acids and high-quality ones in order to make the tissues. And if you don't, your tissues break down. And me being in clinical practice for almost 30 years, I have seen so many people with broken down gut conditions. And a lot of people are familiar with the gut-brain connection. You can't even think if your gut isn't working right. But I see it all the time because we do these high-level scans, and it identifies structural things that are broken down in a person's body. But you cannot repair all of that in one day, in 1 week, in 1 month, because it goes back to childhood. And so I want to cover today some things about what we've eaten since childhood, which proteins are better, and how much, like you say. I'm so glad that you're on the same page with me.
Oh, my gosh. I am telling you right now, and hear me clear, and know that I am honest and transparent. I'm looking forward to a big, thick, juicy steak for dinner. I'm not kidding. I have a friend, I'm going to share. I have a friend who he bought a farm, and out of nowhere, I haven't talked to him in a little while. This is what he's doing. So he sent me meat and really high quality stuff. So I can't wait to fire that thing up tonight. That's not my goal.
Steve, that's so good. And besides that, make sure that you put butter on it and salt.
I do it all the time. And I also add I love garlic. So I put the garlic on there. Oh yeah. All of that just makes so much of a difference. I've let you go. I'm gonna lean back. What should we be mindful of when it comes to protein?
Well, you've already stated one of the main factors, and that is the source. So the source of your meat. A lot of people are afraid of meat. I mean, I'm talking about my clients, my friends, the people I talk to. It's like, well, it's bad. No, it's not bad, but it's the source. Is it full of antibiotics? Well, you don't want that meat. So you have to know where you're getting your meat from, a co-op or a good quality store or a farmer or a friend who's a farmer like you. So that is the first thing to identify. But the second thing is I'm just going to have to be really straight about this, and I know it's probably going to be hard for some people to accept, but I have worked on this topic for years. I mean, decades, literally. And that is, in addition to the quality of it, of the meat, it has to be meat, and it should not be vegetable protein. Now, why do I say that? Because vegetable protein, there's a lot of data out there that says this particular seed or nut or legume has X amount of amino acids in it. The quality is not the same. And we were not designed, for millions of years we've been eating animal protein. We were not designed to eat vegetable protein. People have been trying to change their diets in the last several decades. You cannot change the way the human body works in a couple of decades or even several hundred years. It's going to take I don't know if it'll ever change. So the point is, I have to say, can I just go on a little bit on this?
Please.
Okay, because, I have very good friends and clients who are strict vegetarians. And, I respect every person and how they want to choose, but I am committed to putting the truth out there. And before we're finished today, I'm going to give some resources, some backup books and references that people can go into, because there's so much to know about this, and people deserve to know. So here's the thing. Everything in life feeds on something else, okay? Now, if you feed on a carrot, fine. But if you haven't seen the study from Australia that indicates with electrodes on a carrot, it goes into trauma when you pull it out without speaking to it first and thanking it for its service, then you are not on the same page with life, because life is alive. I guess that's redundant. But the point is, if you're eating a vegetable, it's no more spiritually beneficial than eating a piece of meat, because what you do with the meat, you thank the animal for its service, because we feed on the animals feed on the plants feed on something else, the fungus grows on the trees, and then the little microbes feed on us. And we need those microbes. There are actually more microbes in our body than cells. And so people don't realize that because they haven't been taught. So the cycle of life is exactly that. It's a cycle. Death is not a problem. Some people think about, well, we're killing this. No. All life is soul. Soul, we don't have a soul. We are soul. We are really innately divine. And so soul persists throughout, beyond the physical body, beyond the animal body, beyond the plant body. There is consciousness everywhere. And I think the key is to expand our consciousness so that we are aware that all life exists, all life is interconnected, all life feeds on one another, and we all serve one another. So we have to be able to accept the service that animals give us, as well as giving love. And it has to be both sides. We're here to give and receive love, and receiving is an essential part of it. So I've gone on. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree with you. And those who are very spiritual, and I'm not talking, like monks on a mountain or anything like that, they bless their food. They thank like you said, the animal for making the sacrifice. And somewhere along the way, in the past 20 years or so, meat has gotten a bad rap. I don't know if it's because people brought up the cholesterol, if it were farmers, vegetable farmers who started a campaign to make it look better than meat. I don't know what happened there, but somewhere along the way there was a disconnect about the positivity in meat. Do you feel the same way?
Well, yes, definitely. The factory farms, as they're called, are harmful to the animals. And so people look at that, and there's a lot of abuse, a lot of torture there to the animals. So we need to shift how we are doing things. So that's what has turned a lot of people off. Plus, the sources of the meat are not readily available sometimes to people in the cities. So, but there is well, let me put it this way. It's a money game. Everything is about money. So, decades ago, soy was promoted as a major protein. I bought into that. I think everybody did initially, that it was a good thing, and it ruined my digestive system for a year or so. I had to really rebuild it after eating soy, because soy is indigestible by the human body, and it's not a good source of protein unless it's fermented and broken down previously. And so vegetable proteins are like that. They need to be fermented, and then they're still not your major source of protein, but they can be beneficial in some ways if they are fermented. But, it's a money game. So they put soy out there, and Hamburger Helper. You and I might remember that. That was decades ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that didn't fly, frankly. They went back into the boardroom after several years, and they said, this isn't working. People aren't buying this so much. So then they touted it as a health food. It's not a health food at all. Edamame is not good for your health. And so they just, getting into people's heads more or less. But meat is actually the best possible thing that we can do. And the fat on the meat, that's the key thing. You have to feed fat to your brain for your brain to operate and not get dementia. And so it's crazy to not eat the fat. You know that, right?
Oh, and by the way, I always say the fat is where the flavor's at when it comes to your steak.
It's true.
Yeah.
The more marbled it is, the better.
Okay. So, Dr. Morse, how much protein should we be getting in a day?
That's variable. I am not going to say a number on that, even though some people do. Some people put a really high number on it. It depends on your body type. It depends on how many enzymes you're taking and what quality enzymes. It depends on what cycle of health you're in at this point. For instance, when a person has gone through a major detox, which many people do, they get sick and then they have to recover for 6 or 8 weeks. There are things you should not be eating. You might not be able to eat very much meat, if any at all, in the beginning. But if you're in a really good state of health, you still have to monitor yourself, because that's the whole point of it, is tuning into your body and knowing how it feels. But basically, I'm just going to go here, meat is more important than vegetables. Now, that goes completely contrary to what a lot of people say. Some vegetables are okay, but there is actually a website called meat.com and I have a 91-year-old friend who went on a completely meat diet, nothing but meat, for several years, and it restored her health because she was a serious vegetarian for decades. And so it really brought her back. So I can't say how much, because it might be everything that you eat. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I've often thought, all right, maybe I should go down the vegetarian route, cut back drastically on meat. What am I going to eat? What are the sources of protein? That's what I wrestle with. And I don't know if I can do it. I really don't think I could.
No, you shouldn't, because I've seen many people do that and their health degrades. That would be seeds, nuts, beans, legumes, and there's even protein in grains. That will ruin your health to eat that way. It's just not a possibility. I want to give some references here, because there is a very, very good book that came out in the 1990s called Protein Power. It was one of the first books to really lay it out clearly, why and how meat protein is extremely important for you. And then on the contrary side of that, Grain Brain is another book that talks about how grains actually promote dementia and Alzheimer's and that type of thing. And that's very important information. But then there's a third one, which I love because it's full of recipes. It's called Carnivore-ish. Carnivore-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's got good rationale in it, but it also has good recipes, like over 100 recipes on what you can do with your protein, the meat protein. And then the last one is called Healthy Gut, Flat Stomach. Now, everybody wants a healthy gut and a flat stomach, and you can do that by eating meat, because that's what our bodies are designed to do, if they can handle the meat. Because here's the thing that I find, Steve, being in clinical practice, that people have degraded their digestive system to the point that they can't even handle what's right for them. And that's not unusual. So it has to be built back up. You might have to start putting a little bit more meat in and make sure you have enzymes. Some people need to have hydrochloric acid in their enzymes, and other people don't. So that's why a practitioner is very important, someone who can remote test someone without being present, because I have clients all over the country, and I can do remote testing on them either through a scanning device or through my own personhood. I know how to energetically tap into a person's space and test what's right for them. So I can do consultations like that, which are very beneficial. But it's very important, because the type of enzyme you use might need to have bile in it, because maybe your gallbladder has been removed, or maybe it's not working so well. So the bile would be essential to process the fats. The hydrochloric acid, which is supposed to be produced by your stomach, and maybe you haven't honored your stomach enough for it to produce as much as it needs, you might need to add that in addition to some other enzymes. So all of that comes into play when you decide what proteins to eat and how much meat to eat, how many times a day. And, you and I have talked about intermittent fasting before. So it might be that there's only one meal a day, and that's your meat meal. And then you don't eat much of anything else. I was out at a restaurant the other day, and I had a sirloin steak. I couldn't eat the whole thing. I only ate half because my body wasn't going to handle more than that. Mm-hmm. And I did have some asparagus and some green beans that were sautéed nicely. So the vegetables weren't harmful to me. They were a nice, companion to the meat. But I don't know that I really would have needed them because I've eaten just a plain meat meal before with nothing else, and it was fine. Have you ever done that, just meat?
I have, or I've had just peas. I pick a favorite vegetable and then the meat. And we're going to take a short break because we have at least one question. But why are there sometimes, I experience this, when I have meat, like a steak, I feel kind of like lethargic about an hour or two later. What's going on there?
Well, you may have eaten too much, but more likely it's that you haven't got enough hydrochloric acid being produced by your stomach. Do you take enzymes with your meals?
No.
Yep, you should. I mean, nobody should be eating without that in our day and age because most of us, there would be a rare person that would not grow up having eaten beans, seeds, nuts, grains, all kinds of grains. I mean, cereal, pancakes, pasta. It ruins our digestive system. So you have to rebuild the digestive system. That is absolutely key.
Going to take a short break. I'm going to come back and got some interesting questions regarding what we're talking about. Meat. It's okay to eat. And it's basically it. Instant feedback, Steve@gmail.com if you want to reach out.
Morse Wellness is a health resource system. We offer remote scanning services through advanced frequency technologies to identify underlying causes of your health issues. We provide sound and color therapies, body and emotional clearings, customized advanced nutrition, and frequency technologies for home use. I'm Terry Morse, founder of Morse Wellness. Contact me at morsewellness.org and check out my series on social media.
Okay, we're jumping back in. We're talking with Terry Morse from morsewellness.com, and it's all about beef, eating meat, and kind of breaking some of the myths that are floating out there. Instant feedback, Steve@gmail.com if you want to reach out to us. Cheryl checks in from Reddington Beach, Florida, and says, do I need to be concerned about elevated cholesterol levels when eating meat?
Oh, that's such a good question. I am so grateful for that question. Cholesterol is a spurious issue. Really, it is not a problem, and let me explain why. There needs to be a lot of cholesterol for the brain. Research studies have very clearly shown that people who have higher cholesterol have less heart attacks and less strokes. So it is not something to be concerned about or to treat. However, let me say this. First of all, I'm going to say that one of the functions of cholesterol, in addition to feeding your brain, is to help you make hormones, but also it serves as a patch, as a Band-Aid, let's just say that. So when there are lesions in the blood vessels, and lesions come about because of acidic byproducts that are in our system, we don't have time to go into all of that, but they create actual sores inside the blood vessels. So the cholesterol lays down on top of that and creates a Band-Aid, a patch. And that's good so you don't have holes in your blood vessels. So cholesterol is really, really important, but you might have to change your diet so that you don't have that much acidity in your body, so you have more of an alkaline system and get rid of the subclinical infections that create acidity so that you don't have all that patching needing to be done. So it's a whole gamut of things to look at. Does that make sense, Steve?
For sure. I want to go back to something that you said long time ago. Well, when I say a long time ago, a month, 6 weeks, whatever, that you should not be eating a starch with your meat, correct?
Right.
Yeah, tell us why.
Well, there are different enzymes and substances that your body produces to break these two things down, and they are opposed to one another. meaning they neutralize one another. So when you eat a starch, it starts processing in your mouth with an enzyme that is produced in your saliva, and then it goes into your stomach, and there are appropriate enzymes that are produced by your body to help break that down. But if you have meat in there at the same time, the hydrochloric acid is going to cancel out those starch-producing or starch-breaking down enzymes, and they will be neutralized, and then the starches and the sugars will ferment, and you'll get bloating. So you cannot have those two things, concentrated starches and concentrated proteins, at the same meal and have good digestion. It's just not possible.
And I've told everybody that, based on what you told me, that it's basically like the meat is rotting in your stomach when you're having that starch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a meat sandwich is just out. Fish sandwiches are out.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? It's such a staple of the American diet for decades, having meat and potatoes.
And don't we see that people in other countries are much healthier than we are? I mean, and look at Americans are all most people are overweight. It has to do with just being marketed. We are being marketed literally to death. And it's the food that's killing us because we're eating the wrong things, the wrong quality food at the wrong time of day with the wrong combinations. It just has to be cleaned up. So you're really on track, Steve. I'm proud of you. Really, you're doing very well.
Well, this is where I derailed. By the way, we have another quick question in just a moment. I derailed about 10 years ago where I was very busy at a job. I took on a lot of responsibility, didn't have time to eat. And I thought, yeah, hey, listen, I got to have protein. I know I need it. So I started eating protein bars. Bad idea. Did not realize the amount of sugar in those and came to learn that my triglycerides rocketed through the roof in a very short period of time because I was eating 2 to 3 protein bars a day. Basically a candy bar with protein in it.
I did that too for a summer when I was selling cars way years ago, decades ago, and I was so busy. I gained about 10 pounds, and it took me a year to lose that. I've never gained weight again in my life. I'm still the same as I was when I was a teenager, but those bars killed me because there was seeds and nuts in them and fruit, and that's the wrong combination.
Yeah, or even just a basic, call it a protein bar. Yes, there's whey protein in there. Good. Take what you can get if you're in a rush, but there's a bunch of sugar that comes with it. Got a question from Phil in San Diego, and he's asking, do higher protein diets have any negative health effects like kidney damage?
That's a really good question, too, if you're not processing it. And when he says high protein, of course, we have to say that it should be meat protein because soy protein would be very, very harmful to the kidneys, extremely harmful, and vegetarian proteins in general. But is it being processed? So like I said before, it's very important for everyone who's, let's just say, above 15 years of age to be taking some type of digestive enzyme with their food because we're not processing it properly because ever since birth, we've been fed, a lot of children are fed soy formula as a milk substitute. And so that ruins the digestion from square one. So the processing of the food has to be proper, and then there's no harm to the kidneys whatsoever, not at all.
Okay. What should be the enzymes that you're talking about? Can you explain that?
Well, yes. Hydrochloric acid is not an enzyme. It's a substance produced by your body. We kind of throw it into the classification of enzymes because it helps process your food. But other enzymes would be like protease, which is for protein, lactase for milk products, anything with an ASE on the end of it, and bile comes from the gallbladder to help process the fats. So, for instance, if people want to purchase something very simple offline, online, Super Enzymes by the Now Company is a very good one to start with. Most everybody can handle that one because it has a little bit of hydrochloric acid in it and a lot of other enzymes in it. And then there's one that's only available through professionals like myself, which has bile in it called Enzaid, which I can send to anybody who wants it. But the Super Enzymes is good, hydrochloric acid. If you're just eating meat, you can take hydrochloric acid alone with your food because that's what's required to break the meat down in addition to the protease. Super enzymes is also very good. But I don't ever eat without taking enzymes, unless it's something raw, like a piece of fruit or something. But always, always. And, I'm, up in age. I'm, above 75. And I'm doing really, really well because I process my food, right?
I got a pen out, and I'm writing that down. You're amazing. You look fantastic. You're sharper than people I know that are half your age, if not more.
Well, it has to do with breaking down the food, Steve. Food is our life source. We have to have it, but you have to break it down. And then, we did a previous interview on microbes. If you don't have the right microbes in your gut to break things down, they help process your food. That's not good either. So, this is something you cannot buy online. There's a excellent product called 100 Plus. It's over 120 different microbes. It's liquid. Tastes like water. So it's easy to take, and I can supply that to people, but you can't find it online because it's too advanced out there. It's just not available online. So anyway, but that's important to put those microbes in every day because they help break down our food. It's really essential.
And you can have that after every meal. Doesn't matter, as long as it's, what did you say? As long as it's not raw.
Oh, enzymes. Yeah, I would take them at the beginning of a meal. Correct. Mm-hmm.
You referenced super enzymes. Is that by the company now?
Yes.
It is. Okay. I might just start there and see where I go with that because my stomach can be a little sensitive. So, from there and maybe onto the stuff that you have.
I would say, Steve, for you particularly, that you should take 2 at each meal, not just 1.
Wow. Okay. And I'm looking, pretty much everything. Yeah, I see. I'm online right now. We always learn from you, Terry. You are absolutely amazing, and there's nobody does it like you do, where you snap out the info and, I call it a fast food world. We need it now. You give it to us now. MorseWellness.com. There's so much you offer, even right down to energy healing and so much more. How do we start the process? If somebody wants to change their life, change their health, do they just go to MorseWellness.com and reach out to you?
That would be really good because we have a contact page. That would be the most efficient way to connect with me. There is also a registration tab on that website where they can fill out a very simple, short form that would give me what I need in order to schedule an actual appointment. But if they contact me, I could email them back and tell them to go to the registration page.
Sure.
And then I can, test people. We have scanning devices, and I can test remotely, whatever a person needs. But everybody needs something, and it's good to take a step forward whenever you can.
I will be thinking about you when I'm digging into that ribeye later.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you.
All right, Terry. Thank you so much, and I look forward next time we talk.
Excellent. In 2 weeks. Thanks.
We'll be right back.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.